You didn't think we would be talking about this topic. You didn't think there was an update on it. You probably forgot about Riot's MMO. But fear not, we do have an update on what is going on with the project. And believe it or not, technically we did get a release window. More importantly, we might be alive to see it. So let's dive into all of this. Even though we haven't talked about the MMO for a while, we've been getting steady news the entire time, at least not directly. During Worlds, Cadrill got a couple of words with Mark Merrill about the MMO, where he confirmed that after the reset, the MMO team has a great direction and good momentum, meaning the team is making good progress. But for a while, that was about it. It took us all the way to February until we got the next breadcrumbs. There we got 2 job listings, one for Staff Service Engineer and one for Staff Tools Engineer. And unfortunately, neither of those positions tells us much. It should be mostly positions that make the devs' lives easier. It's essentially creating tools that help the other devs make the game, so it's not really specific. After which there was another big break, but in the middle of all of this, there was something special that happened. There was one big event that started a chain of smaller interesting events. And that's the fact that there was this one totally random guy who continued a project from before. And so, Only Fangs 2 was born. Now, in case you don't know, Only Fangs was a hardcore WoW guild that was put together by Sodapoppin. The reason why this was special is because it was made for streamers. And for about 3 or 4 months, it took over the streaming category on Twitch. And yes, I was part of it. I was literally leveling my character as Arcane was launching in my hotel room. In fact, about 2 weeks ago, I had a talk with Tyler about something that happened in the guild, which I was involved in. Anyway, the reason why Only Fangs is important to us is because the Riot MMO devs quickly became interested in it as well. And that is for one simple reason. We know as a fact that the Riot MMO devs keep in touch with all the hype that is happening around all the different MMO games. Back when Classic WoW launched, a lot of the MMO devs leveled up their characters and they started actively raiding. Then, when Hardcore was first kicked off as a fan add-on, again we saw a number of tweets from the MMO devs posting their characters making it to 60, and after WoW released its official Hardcore server, once again the Riot MMO devs hopped on board and they leveled up their characters together with the rest of the community. And on top of all of that, Mark Merrill was invited to play in Only Fangs. On the outside, this was simply a cool moment. It was cool to see the co-founder of Riot being on board for some fun. But this is also where an interesting chain of events dripped through. Because in order to play in Only Fangs, you had to stream your leveling experience. This was partially because it was a content guild, but partially it also helped preventing you from cheating, since your viewers could hypothetically help you. Which means that Mark Merrill also streamed, and finally, to pay off this big setup, of course, occasionally he also gave us his thoughts on Riot's MMO. And on one faithful day, he did give us the potential release window. Now, because Twitch is Twitch and keeping VODs up is challenging there, I wasn't able to find the original clip, but thankfully the channel Oh Hey Spun got the short of Tryndamere talking about this topic.
Will you finish the Riot MMO before 2030? Sure hope so. Although launch is the start, not the end. So, finish.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. For the first time since its announcement, which wasn't really a proper announcement, I don't think we are supposed to know that the MMO is even in works, we got an official, unofficial release window, where the co-founder of Riot Games feels very strong about the MMO releasing before 2030. In other words, that is before the end of this decade. So yes, we will be older, but it should be in our lifetimes. Congratulations, everyone. The cool thing is that this is not the only piece of news that we have. There are other things that are still constantly happening around the MMO. You see, after the entire classic WoW saga happened, where the MMO devs got a fresh breeze of the community's actions, there was also a swirl of the MMO and the MOBA players. Because obviously, Tyler 1 became a really influential member of Fangs, which is someone outside of the normal WoW community. In fact, he was responsible for making a lot of League players interested in WoW. Which of course has a lot of value to Riot. Because through Soda Poppin and Tyler, Riot got a lot more of their audience get their foot into the MMO genre. But what's even more interesting is that after Fangs was over, the opposite happened as well. And now, some of these WoW players started playing League for the first time. The most known ones are Pika, Zyru or Savix. This is something Riot wanted to achieve for a long time. And they are able to pull this off because they are paying attention to the new player experience. At least now they are. So with stuff like Brawl, which is a great new player experience, also the slightly simplified champion acquisition, as well as the potential WASD controls in the future, it seems like Riot is making great progress. And so while there may be people who think that League is dying, the truth is that it seems to be getting more and more new players. With the catch being, they come from outside of your classic League bubble. So most people may not even know that this is happening. Anyway, after this great merging of the MMO and the MOBA players, which happened through something that was outside of Riot's control, we get another piece of news that hints what the Riot MMO is doing now. And that's because... that's right, there was another MMO job listing. In fact, there were 3 totally separate ones. First of all, one of these openings is the same one we got back in February. The staff software engineer is still up. Essentially, they are the backbone of the MMO software. It is all about technical performance as well as making stuff in C or C++, which makes sense since it is pretty much confirmed that the MMO is in Unreal Engine. I mean, it even states here that you need experience with making multiplayer games in Unreal Engine. Which is funny because for the longest time, Unreal Engine was not great for multiplayer. Anyway, this job listing isn't really that important because most people will have no idea what this even is. The far more interesting one is the Principal 3D Environment Artist. That's right, we're talking about people who take concept art and turn it into 3D environment. And once again, as mentioned, it is all done in Unreal Engine 5. But what's interesting here are the responsibilities here. Riot is looking for someone to make 3D environment assets, who also knows how to implement these assets in Unreal Engine. They need to know how to optimize performance with draw calls and poly count and stuff like that. And they even call for deeper understanding of PBRs and real-time lighting. I mean, Unreal Engine was always really good at real-time lights, but it's interesting that they are seemingly heavily leaning into PBRs. Now, PBRs are usually materials that are really good at mimicking real materials. That's because they are good at faking details and lighting and shading. But Riot did mention that their game should have a unique style. So now I am interested to see how they are utilizing PBRs for stylized graphics. Next, they want someone who can put together different biomes, which makes sense. Runeterra has a lot of those. And finally, a good mention is that they also want to utilize PCGs. In other words, it is the procedural world generation. If you've seen any of Unreal's updates, you would know that Unreal is really good at generating worlds out of the assets that you feed it. Now don't worry, we are not talking about generative AI or anything like that. It's just that Unreal Engine can generate a world for you with your assets, which should work as the baseline for the artists to make the world. Although, as an interesting thought, PCGs could be used for dynamically generating world. So maybe you can have instances that are just different every time you enter them. Anyway, lastly, there is one more job listing that also popped up, and that is for the principal game designers, who would work on progression and economy. What's important here is that this means that the game will likely support economy between players. So it is not just individual gold generation, which is present in most of the new pseudo MMOs. In those games, usually you can't even trade. Well, here they are specifically looking for someone who would foster deeper social interaction between players. And that is kinda it for the news about the MMO. So what did we learn today? Well, the MMO is very much alive. In fact, surprisingly, it should come out within the next 5 years. And once we get to play it, well, Riot is kinda teasing that they don't wanna disappoint the players. I mean, the players will always fill the gaps with their own hopes and dreams, but Riot is kinda proving that they are part of the community, so they know what those hopes and dreams should be, which is a really good thing. So now, all we can do is just think of where we will be in the next 5 years. It might be a really fun idea to make a capsule video before the MMO comes out.